In a significant development from the heart of the British monarchy, Prince Andrew, the embattled Duke of York who has now been formally stripped of all royal titles, has emerged from seclusion for the first time in nearly 2 months. The 65-year-old former royal, now known simply as Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, was captured on camera horseback riding across the expansive grounds of the Windsor estate on a crisp Monday morning. Accompanying him was an unidentified female companion, sparking immediate curiosity and speculation across the United Kingdom and beyond. These photographs, which have quickly circulated through media outlets, mark Andrew's first public sighting since King Charles III delivered the devastating blow of removing his remaining honors, styles, and affiliations at the end of last month. Dressed practically for the chilly weather in a distinctive green barber-style jacket, riding helmet and gloves, Andrew appeared relaxed yet focused as he conversed with his mystery riding partner while navigating familiar paths on the royal estate. The choice of activity is hardly surprising for those familiar with the royal family's long-standing love affair with equestrian pursuits, yet in Andrew's current circumstances, it carries deeper symbolic weight. For a man who has lost virtually every marker of his former status and privilege, saddling up and galloping across the vast, private landscapes of Windsor may represent one of the last bastions of normalcy, freedom, and escape available to him amid relentless scandal and isolation. What makes this outing particularly noteworthy is not just the re-emergence itself, but its location. Despite firm instructions from the king that Andrew must vacate the sprawling 30-room royal lodge, his home of more than 2 decades, he remains firmly ensconced on the Windsor estate. Sources indicate that he has been told to relocate to a considerably more modest residence on the Sandringham estate in Norfolk, yet the process appears to be mired in bureaucratic and legal complexity. Royal Lodge is no ordinary residence. It sits on 98 acres within Windsor Great Park and has been extensively renovated at Andrew's personal expense, reportedly costing millions of pounds over the years. Untangling the long-term lease, financial obligations, and property settlements is said to resemble the protracted process of selling a high-value home, complete with contracts, negotiations, and reams of paperwork. Insiders suggest that the move is unlikely to occur before the end of the year, meaning Andrew could linger in this strange limbo, physically present on one of Britain's most prestigious royal properties while officially persona non grata for several more months. This prolonged presence creates an awkward dynamic, especially for King Charles, who is keen to project strength and modernity in the early years of his reign, but cannot simply evict his younger brother without due process. The king has reportedly agreed to privately fund whatever property Andrew eventually occupies in Norfolk, a decision that has drawn criticism from those who believe the disgraced duke should receive no further royal financial support. The decision to strip Andrew of his titles, ending his use of His Royal Highness, removing all military appointments and patronages, and reducing him to plain Mr. Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, was announced with uncharacteristically stark language from Buckingham Palace. The statement emphasized solidarity with victims of abuse while pointedly noting that Andrew continues to deny the allegations against him. In royal terms, this was a public dressing down of rare severity, signaling that the king no longer considered his brother's protestations of innocence sufficient to shield him from consequence. The final trigger, according to well-placed sources, was the resurfacing of a 2011 email from Andrew to the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, sent just 1 day after a now infamous photograph of Andrew with Virginia Giuffre, then Roberts, and Ghislaine Maxwell was published. In the message, Andrew wrote, "We are in this together." Whether the remark reflected staggering naivete or something more troubling, it provided King Charles with the political cover needed to act decisively. Royal aides have stressed that the decisions were the king's alone, taken in response to what were described as serious lapses of judgment, a phrase carefully chosen to imply a pattern of profound and repeated failure rather than mere isolated errors. For almost 2 months following the announcement, Andrew vanished almost entirely from view, presumably grappling with the psychological fallout of seeing his identity as a senior royal obliterated overnight. At 65, he now faces a future without purpose, official income, or public platform. His reputation, already shattered by the Epstein Association, the disastrous 2019 Newsnight interview, and the subsequent multi-million-pound civil settlement with Virginia Giuffre, a settlement he claimed to fund despite previously insisting he had no significant wealth, appears beyond repair. Yet here he is, riding through Windsor Great Park as if little has changed. The presence of the unidentified woman only heightens the intrigue. Blurry photographs prevent positive identification, but speculation is rife. Some wonder if it could be his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson, who has remained notably loyal throughout the scandal and continues to live on the Royal Lodge property herself. Others suggest a long-standing friend from the equestrian world, or perhaps a member of staff. In an era when associating with Prince Andrew is considered socially toxic in many circles, the very fact that someone is willing to be seen publicly in his company raises eyebrows. The images offer a poignant, almost melancholic glimpse into a man attempting to cling to fragments of his old life. The Windsor estate's sheer size and strict privacy protocols allow him to ride for miles without encountering photographers, most days. On this occasion, however, a long-lens camera captured the moment, reminding the world that Andrew cannot hide indefinitely. Sooner or later the lease on Royal Lodge will be surrendered, the removal vans will arrive, and he will be relocated to a quieter, smaller corner of the Sandringham estate, far from the pomp and proximity to power he once enjoyed. His daughters, Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, continue to offer private support, but they cannot restore their father's standing. King Charles's willingness to underwrite his brother's housing may be framed as fraternal duty, yet it sits uneasily with a public that has watched the monarchy promise a leaner, more accountable era. Critics argue that Andrew should have been cut adrift years ago, left to fend for himself like any ordinary citizen accused of such serious associations. Supporters, if any remain publicly, point out that he has never faced criminal charges and settled his civil case, suggesting the punishment now meted out is sufficient. These photographs, then, are more than mere celebrity snaps. They are a snapshot of a royal family in transition, wrestling with how to handle one of its most damaging members, while trying to look forward rather than back. They reveal a man stripped of title and purpose, yet still, for now, riding the same horses on the same paths he has known for decades. Whether this brief emergence signals quiet acceptance of his diminished reality or a subtle act of defiance, "I'm still here," remains open to interpretation. One thing is certain, Prince Andrew's story is far from over, even if his chapter as a working royal has conclusively ended. The mystery woman, the delayed move, the lingering presence on the Windsor estate, all ensure that interest in Britain's most controversial royal will persist. For now, a man who was once fourth in line to the throne contents himself with a morning hack through the park, accompanied by a companion whose identity may never be confirmed. On borrowed time in a home he has been told to leave. The British public, and indeed the world, watches on, some with sympathy for a fallen figure, others with indignation that consequences took so long to arrive. As King Charles seeks to define his reign, and the Prince and Princess of Wales assume ever greater prominence, Andrew's slow-motion exile serves as both a cautionary tale and an unwelcome distraction. How the monarchy ultimately resolves this lingering embarrassment will say much about its ability to adapt to modern expectations of transparency and accountability. For now, the only certainty is that on a quiet Monday morning in Windsor Great Park, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor saddled up, rode out, and reminded everyone that even in disgrace, he has not yet vanished entirely from the royal landscape.